Well, kids are being mistreated.
Personally, doesn't affect me, but it contributes much to abuse.
Everyone's got their thing going on, you know? I guess I'm just a bystander in that war.
Gender roles. Are gender roles evolving?
Men and women are more different, but the opportunities are more egalitarian.
Yeah.
Do men and women still serve a purpose in today's society, respective to their gender and sex?
Do you think that this makes people happier?
The ever-growing subjects of equality, feminism,
Will a woman make the same as a man?
blue pill, red pill.
That says something about how you view love of another person.
It's not really prioritizing, it's just doing what you want to do.
Are these so-called gender roles still something that we should sustain in today's society?
And the other thing is it always feels like a gender battle. Like it's always men versus women. And even at home, I cannot talk about this with my own husband.
Or is it something that we should just completely eradicate?
So I feel like we're missing it and we're doing a disservice to both genders.
So I wanted to find out. So I went out and asked random people in my area what they thought. So here's what they think.
Is there a war on gender roles?
A war on gender roles.
War on gender roles.
Is there a war on it? Maybe one that I don't see.
Absolutely.
What do you think that war is?
People are being brainwashed. It has to do with what's right and what's wrong, and people they don't know what's going on. They're ignorant.
Yeah, there can be. I mean, it personally doesn't affect me, but I mean, it might affect certain people in this world.
I think that yes, there is. I think even though, like, we've made so many strides in, like, the race for gender equality,
right,
there's still, like, a big, like, divide between genders.
Okay.
And I think that it's not, like, necessarily, like, talked about as much.
Indeed there is.
There is?
Indeed there is, because as we were all created as we were supposed to be, we got forces around us that's telling us what we're supposed to be.
Right.
I say, be who you be, and that's who you are. Or that's who you is.
You don't think there's like a bunch of people out there that trying to like deconstruct masculinity and feminize men and feminize men and masculine
everyone's got their thing going on, you know? I guess I'm just a bystander in that war.
When you say people, do you think it's like a certain section of people, or what do you think? Like, is it just Gen Z, millennials and Gen Z?
Yeah, you could say that. They're being manipulated by their phones, the TV, the internet. It is what it is. You know?
I just think everyone should just be able to, like, choose what they want to do if it makes you happy. I don't know why people have to be so, like against it.
So whether you believe that there is a war, or there isn't a war, or whatever opinion you might have, let's just assume there is a war. The question comes, why would there be a war on gender roles? Or the better question that might be asked is, even if we had a civilization where gender is more equal in terms of the workforce or the roles that are commonly shared, what differences do we really see? Well, good thing for us, that data exists.
The crucial test was the Scandinavian countries, because the Scandinavians have done a lot to flatten out the sociological landscape for men and women,
right,
but also in terms of interest. And interest is, men tend to be interested in things and women tend to be interested in people.
So it's interesting that a country like Denmark, who arguably probably has the best progression when it comes to gender equality in the workspace, even when you take men and women who come from the same educational background, you still see men and women overwhelmingly choose jobs that kind of align with the original thought of gender role. You'll see men who will go into, construction, bricklayering, military fields, jobs that are usually a little more labor intensive or more masculine. And then you have the women who typically go in those are the female jobs or the more feminine jobs like nurturing and caring and daycares and social work and things that you would see typically women dominate. So with countries, making such progressive strides and seeing really no difference in jobs, is it truly effective?
In those societies where the most has been done to move the social world into a position of radical equality, and so that would roughly be the Scandinavian countries, because they've done more of that than any other country. The personality differences between men and women maximize. They don't minimize.
So if we're seeing a minimization in the differences between the genders, then what's the point? I thought the equality push was to minimize the differences, not maximize them. But we could probably be on this topic and this subject all day. Otherwise, this would be like a 9-hour video. So then it all comes back down to this. are gender roles something that we should still believe in?
Do you believe in gender roles? Why or why not?
Like in the sense of like, do I support it or like?
Do you think it's something that should be commonly be practiced?
Not really. I mean, I think people can just do whatever they want to do. Okay. At the end of the day. Sometimes there are things that like people do emphasize that like a guy should do certain things or a woman should do certain things. But like for me personally, like I don't really care. Like you can do whatever you want as a person.
I do not believe in roles.
You don't believe in them?
No. What for? What for?
For me, it's more of a on a personal basis. You know what I mean? Like everyone will have their own thing, and they try and they'll try and speak to others about it and stuff like that. But I mean, if I know my role in my own relationship, I think that's what's most important to me. And then as long as I have someone who I'm with that is what I look for, and
So you're talking like in a relationship sense?
Yeah, in a relationship sense. I mean, I would say that's where it matters most. You know what I mean?
I believe in the Bible, and I think that it needs to be respected.
Gotcha.
Okay. There's a place for a woman, there's a place for a man. And normally the man is kind of like respected, and the woman's supposed to be a little bit more subordinate.
So gender roles matter most in a relationship?
I feel like the point of being human and stuff like that is reproduction.
So gender roles matter most when in a relationship. Is that true? So I decided to do a little digging to see if that is true. Does following gender roles within a relationship actually translate to an increase in happiness? So I did a little research, and my favorite study that I found was in Kansas State back in 2014. It's a fairly lengthy read, but the main point is that the more a relationship followed the gender role, as the man is a provider, the caretaker, the strong physical masculine, and the woman is the female role, the nurturer, carer, cook, clean, things like that, they actually report a significantly higher happiness than relationships that didn't follow the gender role. So you can do what you like with that information, but back to the video.
Now, it's kind of the same question, but do you think these roles are necessary in today's society?
I think there's a lot of roles that there's a lot of jobs that anyone can do, and there are kind of stereotypicalized. But I think there are other jobs where it's okay, I don't know.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Why do you think they're necessary still?
Well, it goes back to what's right and wrong. It's you just got to read the Bible. You got to study it.
Gotcha.
If you don't study it, then you just don't know what's going on.
I don't think it's necessary, because how long's construction been going on?
Forever.
Since the start of humanity, right? We've built amazing things, the pyramids, right? We build buildings. Construction workers work really hard. Architects are primarily men, I guess you would say. But regardless, right? Are there a lot of women in that industry now? There still isn't, right? Mm-hmm. Have we prevented them from going there? Not at all. I guess that's I guess it depends on what your pursuit is. You know what I mean? What you're trying to pursue. Like we were talking about. You said, oh well, you're talking about more relationships. Well, yeah. If we're talking relationships, what are you pursuing? Does gender role matter to you if you're pursuing relationships? Right. Does gender role matter to you if you're pursuing job security or jobs? You know what I mean? Or a profession, right? I feel like in different categories, different pursuits, depending on what you're pursuing. It could be all three. It could be more. It could be just one individually. Depending on what you're pursuing, I feel like yes and no.
I believe they were necessary because as society got established, but I think as we evolve as a human species and population or whatnot, that they are not necessary.
So when would you say they became unnecessary?
Oh, maybe around 96.
96?
I'm 54, so I would say yeah.
That sounds like a very specific year, 96. Why 96?
I couldn't say in specific for that year, but we saw a lot of things a lot of things in society changing, we tore down the wall and coming through the fallout of segregation and racism and tearing down the walls in Berlin and all that type of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe, my years might not be accurate, but around that fluid time.
Yes and no. you know, like there are certain things that like, I don't know, society's been built on for years on end, right? Like we're like the guy's supposed to do certain things and the woman's supposed to do certain things. But like, I don't know, like obviously like we're kind of going away from that. And personally for me, it hasn't really affected me at all. So, I mean, maybe obviously probably affects some people in this world, but for me personally, it hasn't. So I don't really see much issue with it.
Men's suicide rate is at an all-time high, and it's rising. And a key component on why this is rising and why it is at an all-time high is because of gender roles. Many men around the world, especially in Western societies, they feel this sense of depression and sadness when they can't be that financial rock to their family, or when they lose their job, or when they're not as strong as the next man in line. Simply, they can't follow the masculine role that the world is expecting them to be as they wish they could. And another reason for this rise in depression amongst men is because they just don't want to talk to anybody. This month is June, where it's supposed to be Men's Mental Health Month, but no one's really talking about it. Most men that have a sense of depression or sadness, they've reported that they've just never talked to anybody and they don't feel like doing it because it's not a manly thing to do. 40% of men just say they've learned to deal with it. 36% just don't want to be a burden. 29% are just too embarrassed to even talk about it. And then there's 20% that just believe that there's a negative stigma around it, which maybe there is. When men show weakness, it shows a sign of just incompetence as a man. And when you're a weak man, it really gets to you. Now, of course, it's not all perfect on the women's side either. You have countries like in Syria, Egypt, all across the Middle East, South Korea, of course, there's North Korea too, but women around the world are still deprived of education and basic opportunities that are given to a lot more equal countries that we have in the world. And a lot of the reasoning for that is because we have governments who are still very traditional and believe that women don't deserve certain rights. So while gender roles have caused a lot of good in the world, of course, there is still a lot of bad going on as well.
Do you think gender roles cause any harm?
Indeed.
What kind of harm do you think they cause?
I do. I think that because of gender roles, I mean, whether it's military or just on the domestic front, I think it keeps a lot of people down from fulfilling their true potential.
Okay.
You know, and we're all here to serve each other.
Right.
And I think if we're cast in these roles, I mean, hell, I'm a black guy. So you want to talk about some roles, I know all about them. You know, I was never supposed to do this or that. As a chef, again, I'm 54, and for years, at least a good 20 of my years, I would never be recognized as a chef just because I was black. Right. So, you know, so if you think about roles, I was supposed to be way over there.
I think honestly, like they can just be like hurtful. Like it's honest, like it's kind of weird, like growing up as like a female, just to like know that you're like categorized and like stereotyped in like certain ways that like men aren't. And you know, like men are also stereotyped in certain ways that women aren't.
Yeah.
But I think overall, like they are harmful. But it's weird because it's kind of just like the way like many people's brains are wired.
Absolutely.
What kind of harm do you think it causes?
Well, kids are being mistreated.
Okay.
Because they think that oh, I could dress up like a girl, and then it's like everybody else is kind of like laughing at them, and then they're going to kill themselves or something. It's like that's not right. Now I have family members that dress up as girls and they're male, and I think it's terrible what's happening to them. But they've been brainwashed. That's all there is to it.
Not really. No, I don't think so. I mean, like at the end of the day, it's like whatever the person's doing for themselves.
Okay.
If like they view it a certain way and they want to act a certain way, then that's fine.
So I want to get a little more specific. So, what harm does it do for the female side?
Suicide, abuse. It contributes much to abuse. Feeling like you're not worth or you're not equal.
And then what would you say on the male side?
On the male side, it leads to feminization.
You think gender roles lead to feminization of men?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. males in my age group, I found that they take a certain level of guilt and anxiety because of that.
Okay.
Because there's truth beyond that, but yet a male feels that they have to hold a female down.
So it seems like all over social media and news outlets, you have one side that says we should sustain gender roles and that what's worked is worked and we should keep them how they are. And then you got on the other side people that say, no, it's a horrible idea. We should absolutely eliminate them and progress into a new world. So with this rise and conflict of this topic, is it the mainstream media that's trying to deconstruct these? And if they are, why? And why so?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's about, this whole friggin' thing. They want to take over the world.
Okay.
And they want to divide us.
Divide and conquer.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
They say the best way to conquer civilization, you divide them all, you conquer them at the same time.
Right. It's something like that.
And if so, why?
Yeah. I think so, yeah. I think that, like, in today's society, like, people in older generations will be like, oh, like, social media is bad. But honestly, I feel like it's really, like, expanded, like, the minds of, like, so many people in, like, the younger generation. And it's, like, made everybody, I think, like, more accepting of, like, what people want to do with their lives and I feel like with themselves.
Yeah, I definitely would say, like, mainstream media obviously has certain views on it. I mean, well, it's like certain views on one side, like, I guess if we're talking about, like, politics, like just the right or the left.
Yeah.
But I mean, everyone has their own views. Like, at the end of the day, as long as they're not forcing it, I don't really view it as an issue.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you think they would want to do that?
I think that if society and I don't want to say New Ageism or Satanism or whatever, I think they would all have that balance off so that we're off on the wrong path of what we've been taught to believe as a child.
You think they're trying to, like, kind of divide us, or?
No, I think they wanted to lump us in one.
To be in one. Okay. Let's say we build a world where we're deconstructing gender roles, right?
Yeah.
Let's say we cut the amount of men that are pursuing these major infrastructure fields in half.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you see I'm no professional in statistics, but wouldn't you see a drop in the efficiency in our economy, or it's just the way that things are ran or built?
100%, but it wouldn't. I don't know necessarily that it would be because we're splitting the genders, doing each job and stuff. I think it would be mainly. I mean, could it potentially have something to do with that? Yeah, but I think mainly it would purely have to do with the fact that people would have to do things that they don't want to do.
Now, each of the people that I interviewed, we had really good conversations, but if I fit every single talking point that we put, then this video would probably be 3 hours long. Now, for two people in particular, during the conversation, it made sense for me to ask this question on what, in their opinion, does it mean to be a man. Here's what they said.
What do you think it means, in your opinion, to simply be a man?
I think being a man, or being a woman for that matter, is owning up to your responsibilities, recognizing your responsibilities, and then fulfilling those responsibilities.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Simple as that?
And yeah, simple as that.
Nice.
Well, I mean, for me, personal opinion, right? I feel like, a male role would be, a caretaker, someone who provides, like a family man, family oriented, right? Someone who, when they come home, they know what they're coming home to. I feel like when it comes to men, right, in this world, whether people like it or not, men start at the bottom when they're born. And respect for men is earned. You don't just show up in the world and you have an image and, like, people already respect you and stuff like that. Like, as a man, you have to earn it.
Right.
You have to have drive. Like, you have to work really hard. You have to be dedicated. You have to have, like, a purpose. You have to give yourself a purpose, really. And so, and I feel like for women, a lot of the times it's different.
And so with that pretty much concludes that topic. If you guys enjoyed the video, and if you guys want to see more topics like this, leave a comment. Tell me what you want to see talked about next, and I'll see you on the next one.